Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast. This podcast is ran by two ladies who play games, mumble profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome back to the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jen.
And my name is Emily. It is another week here in paradise. Hopefully nobody could hear my cats losing their literal minds behind me. Everything is fine. We're good. Life is good.
Truly. I don't know about paradise, but we'll see.
It's an existence for sure.
We're here living. That's for sure.
That's also for sure. These are confirmed facts. Yes, but how has your last week been, Jen?
I don't know. I feel like every single week you ask me this question, I'm like, it was crazy. I was slammed at work. But I think that's just my perpetual state of being now.
Mm-hmm.
I, for a while, had myself convinced. I was like, last year, the beginning of the year was, quite slow. And then June, it, ramped up a lot and, continually ramped up until December. And then I had, a little bit of a dip in January. A slight dip, but we ramping back up again, so that's fun.
Amazing. I am also usually giving the same answers where it's like, I work so much too. All I do is work. I live with my work. I work from home. Blah, blah, blah. But this last week I was actually very sick with nothing that anybody needs to be worried about. Just that's life, I guess. And so I didn't work as much, but also I guess I was kind of working because I feel like when you're sick, you're not really it's not a vacation. You're just unwell.
You're just I'm here trying to survive. Thank you.
You just feel terrible and then life goes on and time passes still and you're like, wow, I could be making money right now and instead I feel like garbage. And that's just kind of how that goes.
Wow, that's so fun.
So much fun. But I am stoked because a month from now I will be spending a week in Vegas for funsies. Well, not really. Well, yeah, for funsies, but also I have a couple girls who one of them's getting married and she wanted this to be her bachelorette. And so they beefed it up because her birthday is also the same week that we're going, as well as another person's. So it's kind of like a big vacay. So that could be fun. Should be fun.
A big party vacay.
Yeah, I'm just more excited to be someplace that's warm and not the place where I work and I live and I breathe. And also just maybe have some time to read and just not think for a couple days. That's really all I want is just to peace out for 2 days, mentally speaking, and maybe spiritually. We'll see.
You know what? That's totally fair. I'm going on a week-long vacay, kind of work trip, but 95% vacay, 5% work trip in June, and I'm looking forward to it so much.
I know. I didn't realize how much I would look forward to something like that, because it's also traveling has its own stress too, so I try not to get too into it. But after this last year or even few months, a homie needs it. This homie needs it.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't really gone anywhere since the pandemic started just because work was crazy and it didn't really feel safe or the right thing to do. So I honestly just avoided it, even though I freaking love traveling and I've really missed it. I've been craving on going on a trip for a while, and so we went crazy. We booked our trip in June to Vancouver, and then we're going to Montreal in October, and I'm trying to sneak one in December.
See, that's my thing too, is I want to go on more travels and stuff, but I also want to be my big thing is since the pandemic, it really made me look at I guess stability in life and how stable I want things to be. So I'm trying to hash out some of these things, and then my next thing will be to see some sights, because I feel like I've been rubbed these last couple of years for sure. And it's payback time. I gotta go places. I gotta do something.
That's how I feel. I had two big trips canceled in 2020 because of this stupid pandemic, and I need to reclaim those trips and go places and do fun things.
Right? Because the last place I went was when we went to Europe. Because basically I came back, got engaged, and then the pandemic hit, if I'm remembering correctly. More or less. That is basically what happened.
I mean, we went in 2018, so there was like a year
Right? But like during that
between the
year, I was
pandemic.
like, oh yeah, no, I'll save. And then in 2020, after the wedding, like I'm gonna go to like these different places, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of the same thing. Like I went on a few trips in 2019, but it was definitely like a lighter year because my partner was graduating in 2020, so like I had my like two big trips planned. I was planning on going to South Africa and then San Francisco, and then I really wanted to plan a trip with him for his graduation
Mm-hmm.
from college, but that just never freaking happened. So
Nope.
here
And
we
so
are.
we live in the pandemic reality. Still kind of here, but yeah, that's about that. I'm trying to think if there's like anything else I did other than watching that Batman movie finally, but that's about it. Love emo Robert Patterson. I feel like this is a good look for him. Love that for him. And that's all I have to say
Yes.
about that.
I mean, what else is there to say on this good of Fridays?
The goodest of Fridays. Actually, I do have a fun fact, kind of. So after seeing this movie of Batman, I talked to one of the people I went with, and she was saying about how apparently Robert Pattinson did this whole thing before the release of Batman, where he had said that if Batman flopped in theaters, that he was gonna do porn. And
Yeah.
then people were like wildly upset that Batman's actually doing like, well in theaters. Then he's like, "Don't worry guys, I might just do porn anyways." And apparently people have been like losing their minds about it. I don't think he actually would though. Like maybe he would like get his stunt double in there, or like maybe him and like somebody else have a deal, like a look-alike. I don't know. I don't think that would happen.
I don't know. I feel like Robert Pattinson is the kind of person who might actually do it.
I kind of hope he does though, because that would really speak to his character. Like he's a little unhinged, but I love it. He's just a wild guy.
He's definitely a bit of a wild man. Like recently I've been seeing a lot of the old interviews from like with him and Kristen Stewart from when Twilight originally released, and
Oh
he's just
gosh.
like so unhinged unnecessarily, but it's amazing.
You can see that though in his face. Like I watched an interview too, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but I was like watching his face, and I was like, this boy is crazy, but I love it. Do I want to be his friend? Yes. Am I also a little afraid of him? Maybe.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's a vibe. He's living his best life.
Yes. Go bestie. Go. We love you for that.
Exactly. But should we jump right into our wheel of questions?
Yes, we should.
Do you celebrate Easter?
Yes. Yes, but I also don't know if there's really like, is there like supposed to be a proper way to celebrate Easter? I feel like there's usually just like dinner and then people go Easter egg hunting. I don't know. I mean, I do those things, I guess. Is that truly celebrating Easter? Maybe. I don't know what people are supposed to do at Easter usually.
Yeah, I don't really know. My family definitely celebrated it when I was growing up, and like my parents and family still do, and I feel like it was always kind of one of those like B holidays, like it wasn't Christmas, so it wasn't like the full full sender, but it was still like it's Easter.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I like that it's an opportunity to eat like good food again, because that is something that I really love about like Thanksgiving and Christmas. So usually my parents do like a nice dinner that's kind of like a lot of the same stuff for that. And then my parents still, even though most of us are grown now, they will basically the Easter Bunny in all his glory will come by the night before Easter Sunday. And he will hop around the yard and he will make 6 Easter nests, which is crazy because me and my siblings all make 6 people. And in these 6 Easter nests, there is like chocolate and goodies, but you have to find your nest. So the next morning, my parents will let loose the wolves, aka me and my sugar crazed siblings, to locate Easter nests. And the bunny does a very good job of hiding them. I think last year I had to get mine out of the gutter of the house. So that was fun.
I love that. I love that the Easter Bunny puts your little basket in the gutter.
You see, my
The
favorite part
bunny's
is
like,
that the
want to
Easter...
clean it while you're up there?
Yeah, literally, like a suggestion. Or I love too that the bunny took my height into consideration and was like, yes, you are now the shortest sibling. I'm gonna put yours on the roof of the house, because that makes sense. Um,
But
love
I feel
that.
like you're also the sibling that would climb on the roof to get it.
I'm
So
not saying
it
I had
makes
issues
sense.
getting it. I mean, there was a lattice not that far off, which is basically a ladder if you're quick enough, um, and don't get caught. But yeah, so that's fun.
Well then, that is very fun.
I don't even remember what we were
Um,
talking about.
that was basically it. Let's spin for our next question.
Cool. Okay.
How do you feel about organized religion?
Funny. I'm like, I don't know. I can understand why there is a lot of organized religion, and I understand why some people might need that. If it's a part of like if it's some people need like a discipline or like a rule book on how they should behave. Like I can understand why organized religion would benefit people like that. Do I think that a lot of people use organized religion to push certain ideas that they have about the world, or to abuse people, or to take advantage of people, or to further themselves financially, or to feed into their ego, or to do many other things? Yes, I do think that. Um
Ditto.
so I'm like in the middle. I can see where it helps people because I've obviously, with growing up Catholic, have met people where if they didn't have it, they lose a sense of community, a sense of spirituality, a sense of like wholeness, a guide to life. So I can see how it helps people, and I can see certainly how it helps certain people. But there is a whole other side of it too, where I feel like a lot of people see the kind of power it has and they use it to their advantage, and so I'm not super keen on that. So I would put myself somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I feel like I'm also pretty in the middle on the concept of organized religion.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely see how it helps people, and I think that that's good. And if you want to be a part of that, then I think you should be able to. And,
Oh yeah, power to
I
you.
just don't love the way that it hurts people.
Yeah, so it's like a fine line where like depending on a lot of things, it can either help people or harm people. And I think the best thing to do when it comes to religion is if you are somebody who believes in a figurehead or a deity, or the sense of spirituality behind religion, is to take the principles about it that make the most sense, and help you in being a better person, and that's really about it. And try not to fall for people who use it to push their own agendas because they don't like certain things about the world and what other people are doing all the time.
Agreed.
And that's about that. That's all I got.
I would agree with you. I feel like we're pretty on the same page for this one.
I mean, it checks out for both of us having gone to the same church for years. All right. Let's move on to our next question.
How do you feel about people taking justice into their own hands? Like, if I stole a quarter from you and you bitch slapped me across the face, do you think that type
Well,
of
in that
like...
case, no. I don't know. See, there's certain things where there's like levels and lines, obviously. Uh it's kind of a hard thing where I feel like for a lot of things like the law covers it pretty well, where if somebody does you wrong, like there's usually like an even punishment for that, or at least like a form of justice through the system. But there
Mm-hmm.
are certain things where like I would be lying if I said if like those like vigilante justice things, like, you know, where like say there's like a story that comes out of a man being arrested because, you know, somebody like did something to his daughter, so he went over there and beat the shit out of him and now he's in jail. Like, I can't help but like want to vote for him and be like, you know what, I can't really be mad at you. Like, somebody did harm to your child and you being the responsible one went and got your revenge. Is it probably is it the right thing to do? Maybe not. Do I understand? And also, am I not mad at you? Yes. Those are things that are also true.
Yeah, it's really hard because I feel like in that specific situation where, like, you know, someone assaulted your child and
Yeah.
the father, you know, goes and insults that person, obviously assault is bad. It's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You should not
Exactly.
do that. We
Exactly.
do not condone that or promote that on this podcast. However, I kind of see like their perspective of like that rash anger and that feeling of wanting justice. And, you know, I think it is hard when sometimes justice isn't served properly, or, you know, you
Well,
see
that's
these
the
people who
thing.
commit these horrible crimes just get off or get like a light sentence, and then
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is like if you are say in that situation, the other thing too is like, would the system accurately defend your child? Probably not. There's lots of situations where people fall through the cracks, or they don't get justice, or there's not enough evidence to form a case, or all these other things, and things happen and then nobody gets punished for it. So I can understand too the logic of being like, well, I don't think that the punishment will befit the crime, and then going and taking care of it yourself. I think that's something that's understandable.
yeah, it's tough because like it is wrong, and I feel like it shouldn't happen, but I can understand why people would take actions into their own hands, and I can see the logic behind it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Yeah. And that's what I got on that one. Should we spin for our last question?
Spin away. Our story today is a bit intense, so I'm gonna end off with a light question. What's your favorite Easter color?
Color? I don't know. I don't really like Easter colors. They're very
You
like
gotta pick one.
they're
I feel
so
like lilac purple would be yours.
I do like lilac purple. They're just so vibrant. Like, I feel like, you know, there's like canary yellow, the lilac color, which I do like, but I don't know. It's very like, ah. I'll pick that one. I'll take it. You offered it up to me. I'll take that color.
Fair. I feel like purple's probably mine as well.
It's easy. It's like a walk in the door. It's not as in your face about everything.
I like it better on flowers than I do on like clothes or decorations.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I like seeing it on things, not necessarily on people. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
At least not on myself, but I am trying to branch out my wardrobe a little bit, so maybe you'll see me wearing more purple in the future.
Hey, I feel like it's a good color on you.
It could happen. It could happen. But yeah, so I'm assuming that somebody took vengeance on Easter, is with this story, I'm guessing. And it was a religious thing, so they were like, God says you shouldn't do this on Easter. I'ma kill you now.
Uh, no.
Okay.
You've got
I
like elements of the story there, but not quite the direction we're going today.
All right, I am ready to hear your story then. I'm very curious because it's not very often you give me a warning about gruesome details. So,
Yes. Researching it was not the most fun. Usually I have like not fun, but like I'm interested in true crime, so like researching I find interesting and I like learning about the details and all that. But this one I had to take breaks because it was a bit much for me at points.
Oh, for
reading
sure, yeah.
some of the stuff. Okay, well, in the spirit of Good Friday, I thought I would talk about some not so good people within the Catholic Church.
Okay, I see you. All right.
So, to be 100% transparent and give just a little extra trigger warning to anyone who may be sensitive to issues regarding child abuse and child sexual abuse, I'm going to be covering the Catholic Church sexual abuse scandal. I don't know if you know much about this case, Em.
No, I don't. It's one of those things where, obviously, you would probably have experienced this a little bit, but with being in the Catholic Church, it was very like, oh, none of that stuff's true. Like, oh, that's just like, that's not something we need to pay attention to. Like, oh, you don't know anything. Like, nobody knows actually what happened. Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, kind of like, not like hush hush, but more so being like really toning it down and its severity.
Yeah, I would go as far to say it was like kind of hush hush. Like, it was not something that was openly talked about.
Not even like hush hush. It's more like we don't talk about Bruno. Like they're like, okay, like we don't talk about blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. So this is like honestly a huge case that like spans multiple countries, and a church commission report in 2004 said that more than 4,000 US Roman Catholic priests had faced sexual abuse allegations in the last 50 years. Just in the US, over 4,000 priests. And those 4,000 were in cases involving more than 10,000 children.
Amazing.
So that's just in the US from 2004. So I cannot express to you how giant this case is. There was like over 250,000 children affected in France as well. Like,
everything you're telling me so far sounds horrific.
Yes. So in this 1 hour podcast episode, I cannot cover all of the victims or the accused priests because I would need to speed up this episode to like 100 times. And I don't think you guys want to listen to just literal like high-pitched chipmunk noises this whole time. So, yeah. Could be fun. Could be an interesting take, but not what we're doing today. So with that being said, I've decided to focus on one of the priests involved, and I've chosen this specific individual because they were the main focus in the 2002 Boston Globe article, which I feel like was a kind of a fundamental piece of journalism in helping bring this story to light. However, because of the complexity and the many victims of just this one priest, I have to leave out some details for the sake of time, but I'll stop rambling and I'll get into my story now.
Okay.
So today, we are talking about a man named John Joseph Geoghan, who was born in Boston in 1935 to an Irish Catholic family. His father died when he was only 5 years old, so he was primarily raised by his maternal uncle, Mark Cohan, who was himself a priest in Boston. So growing up in a devout Christian family, he was taught that the funeral of his father was a happy event, as now he lived in heaven. He was so fascinated by the idea of heaven that he decided to become a priest. After graduating from Holy Cross High School in 1952, he entered Cardinal O'Connell Seminary, and an assessment in 1954 noted him as remarkably immature, and Reverend John J. Murray had expressed serious doubts about his ability to do satisfactory work. He made the decision to leave Cardinal O'Connell Seminary after that, and later enrolled into Holy Cross College in Worcester, from where he graduated in 1957. And after graduation, he went to St. John's Seminary and was ordained in 1962. So, on February 13th, 1962, John was assigned as an assistant pastor at the Blessed Sacrament Parish in Saugus, Massachusetts. That's going to be a fun word to say a million times over. Massachusetts. That December, he successfully talked a man out of committing suicide from jumping off the Mystic River Bridge, which is objectively the only good thing he's ever done.
I was about to say, not a half bad start so far.
While John was assigned to Blessed Sacrament, Anthony Benjevich allegedly told church officials that the junior priest was observed bringing boys into his bedroom. Anthony would later deny this allegation in 1998 and told reporters that he was branded as a troublemaker for reporting John at that time, and that church officials hinted that he might be sent to Peru if he kept informing them of this allegation against John. So he shut up, essentially.
What's so bad about Peru?
I don't know, I just wanted to stay in Massachusetts.
Okay. Sounds good.
In 1995, John admitted to having molested 4 boys during his time at Blessed Sacrament.
Of course.
So not off to a great start.
No.
So John was then shuffled around and reassigned to St. Bernard's Parish in Concord, starting on September 22nd, 1966. He was transferred from that ministry after 7 months there, and church records were offered no explanation for his reassignment, which doesn't sound great to me, but I guess we'll just have to take their word for it. On April 20th, 1967, John was then assigned to St. Paul's Parish in Hingham. Around 1968, a man complained to the church authorities that he had caught John molesting his son. Despite this, John continued to serve with another priest by the name of Thomas W. Moriarty at St. Paul's. And it was at this time that John befriended a single mother of 4 boys who lived in Melrose named Joanne Mueller. So Joanne's mother actually knew John from his days at Blessed Sacrament, and she introduced her daughter to the priest, obviously not knowing his transgressions. And soon John was a familiar figure in the Mueller household. As with some of his other victims, he took the boys out for ice cream, he read them books at night, he helped the boys get in and out of the bathtub. Joanne trusted John because she had no indication of his past sexual abuse of children. So while he was at their house bathing her children, she would just slip in and out for errands. You know, it was a big help to have this guy, as a single mom, help her with some of these things, and she thought nothing of it. So,
of course, yeah.
Yes, John would babysit for an hour here or there, and Joanne said he was our friend. If John disappeared upstairs into the boys' bedroom, she didn't give it a second thought. Which...
Literally, this is how it starts. Like, in anything that you've covered so far where there's, like, abuse of children as, like, an element, it's always the predator familiarizes themselves with the parents to the point where it's not weird for them to be spending time with the kids, and then that's literally just it, and then everything happens.
Yeah. So one night in 1973, when John called asking to come over for a visit, the reaction of Joanne's 3rd son, and I'm not going to be naming her children because they don't want to be named, who was 7 or 8 at the time, surprised her. The boy did not want John in his home, and he grew increasingly upset when his mother pressed him about his reluctance to see the priest that she considered a valued friend. So there's a bit of a transcript from Joanne's recollection of this moment, so I'll just read it to you. So Joanne said, "And then he finally broke out in tears. He kept saying, 'No, no, no, I don't want him coming down.' He was insisting, and I shouted back at him and said, 'Why? What is it?' And he said, 'I don't want him touching my wee-wee.' I hate to be so blunt, but that's what he said," Joanne recalled, and she was shocked. She said, What do you mean? What are you saying? You know, I didn't understand." And then the next thing he blurted out was, "I don't want him doing that to my wee-wee." And I will never forget, because it was dawning on me, just shock and horror that, you know, he's saying this. And I mean, this isn't just a normal thing he's saying, and for a kid to say that. So now it dawned on me, I mean, this is awful. I said, "What?" And he threw himself on the floor and sobbed. He was completely hysterical.
That is so sad. That is
Yeah.
so sad.
So once her son, who was 7 or 8, told her that,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of all unfolded, and her other children ended up confessing to her that they had also been abused. So her 5-year-old also dissolved into tears, and she summoned her two other boys who were upstairs. And when their mother asked for details about John's conduct, they stood speechless at first, and then they began to cry. Her oldest boy told her, quote, "Father said we couldn't talk about it and tell you. Never to tell you because it was a confessional."
Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. So that you're telling me this man was saying that them so him touching them is them confessing to something
Yeah.
or something? He like turned it around and was like, this is a confessional, which means that, or wait, or is he saying that he's confessing something to them and they're not allowed to tell? Like, that is so bizarre to me.
I feel like, I mean, obviously I don't know because I wasn't there and it's not
Yeah.
explicit in this quote, but I feel like it was along the lines of when John was doing acts onto them or forcing them to do acts onto him,
Mm-hmm.
he was saying that all of these sexual acts were a form of confessional, so it was confidential between him and the children.
Oh, okay, I understand. That makes more sense. Disgusting and perverted and terrible, but okay, I can see why that would be the like mindset. Okay, I understand now.
So Joanne was obviously overwhelmed, and John at that very moment was on his way to her home, which was obviously not great. So it was raining out that day, she recalled. The weather was cool. So she grabbed some jackets for the kids and headed for her local church, which was St. Mary's in Melrose, where she and her boys met with Reverend Paul E. Michelli, a parish priest who knew both John and Joanne's family. Joanne said Reverend Paul counseled her sons to, quote, "Try not to think about this, to forget about it. Bad as it was," he said, "just try, don't think about it. It will never happen again," he said. "He will never be a priest again. It will never happen again," he reassured Joanne. And Reverend Paul, until the early 2000s, was a member of the Cardinal Laws Cabinet, which was just the head guy in
Yeah.
Massachusetts. And when all of this finally went to court later, he actually contradicted this and contradicted Joanne in court deposition, and he said he did not recall her name and had never received a visit of the sort that she described. But Reverend Paul acknowledged receiving a call from a woman saying John was spending too much time with her children, and Reverend Paul testified that the caller said nothing about sexual abuse. As a result, John was sent to Seton Institute in Baltimore, Maryland for treatment for his pedophilia. However, John's next assignment was St. Andrew's Parish in Boston's Jamaican Plain neighborhood, starting on June 4th, 1974. And it was here that John met another mother by the name of Marietta Dussard, who was raising her own 4 children, 3 boys and a girl, as well as her niece's 4 boys. So 7 boys in total and 1 girl that she's got under her roof.
He's seeking out very specific things. Somebody where there isn't a father in the picture, where he can pretend to be the father in the picture, and then have full access to families with lots of young boys. Yep.
Yeah, essentially. So in her neighborhood, she, being a single mom, was really hoping that there was a priest that the children could look up to. She wanted a good role model for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then she met John, and he supervised the parish's altar boys and the Boy Scout troop. So she thought that he was like a safe person, He's in charge of
Right.
all these other kids.
Mm-hmm.
Screaming. And John was super eager to help her, and before long he was visiting her apartment almost every evening for nearly 2 years. He routinely took the 7 boys out for ice cream and put them to sleep at night. Marietta worked hard to please John, and when the priest mentioned that his uncle, who was also a priest, had taken away his teddy bear when he was growing up, she bought him a blue one for his 40th birthday. The gift delighted him, and at that time, John was regularly molesting the 7 boys in their bedroom, and in some cases he performed oral sex on them. Other times he fondled their genitals or forced them to fondle his, occasionally as he prayed.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck? No! No. Nope, 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 nope.
The memo from the Archbishop at the time, dated December 30th, 1994, and labeled personal and confidential, said John would stay in Marietta's home even when he was on a 3-day retreat because he missed the children so much. He would touch them while they were sleeping and waken them by playing with their penises.
This man is awful. Awful. Awful.
Literally heinous.
Heinous. Beyond heinous. Heinous.
So Marietta discovered what was happening to her children after they finally told her sister, Margaret Gallant. And when Marietta asked one of her sons to confirm the abuse, he told her about the time that John asked him to stay overnight at the home of the priest's elderly mother. It was a night her son had never before spoken about and never wanted to. When Marietta made this discovery about John molesting her kids, one of them, who was just 4 years old, may I note? Not that any of this is good, but I feel like...
No, but like these kids are so young.
Yeah.
Like 4 years old is a baby.
Yeah. So when she discovered this, she found no solace from her friends or her church. Fellow parishioners shunned her, and they accused her of provoking a scandal. Church officials implored her to keep quiet, and it was for the sake of the children, they said. Don't sue, they warned her. They told her that no one would believe her. Quote, everything you have taught your child about God and safety and trust, it is destroyed, Marietta said. Because literally, this was obviously very traumatic for the kids, and this was a religious figure that they trusted.
Well, yeah, and then this figure is using the principles of the religion or the belief in God, which they already had, to then manipulate them into doing abusive acts, right? Just
yeah.
Ugh.
On February 9th, 1980, John E. Thomas told Bishop Thomas Voss Daly that John admitted to molesting the 7 boys, and Thomas then called John and told him to go home. John admitted to the abuse, but said that he did not feel it serious or a pastoral problem. He was placed on sick leave 3 days later and ordered by Cardinal Humberto Medeiros to undergo counseling. Under the care of doctors Robert Mullins and John H. Brennan, John underwent psychoanalysis and psychotherapy. On February 25th, 1981, John returned to pastoral work at St. Brendan's Parish in Dorchester, where he allegedly raped and fondled a boy. In 1982, the family of 7 of John's victims complained to Bishop Daly that John had arranged to meet with one of his victims at an ice cream shop in Jamaican Plain and was at the time in the company of another boy. On September 18th, 1984, Cardinal Bernard Francis Law, who was the new Archbishop of Boston, removed John from the parish after complaints that he was molesting children. However, while Cardinal Bernard Francis Law removed John from that church, he did what everyone had done before and just reassigned him to another church. He was moved then to St. Julia's Parish in Weston on November 13th, 1984. He was put in charge of 3 youth groups, including altar boys, which...
Okay. First of all, what the fuck? I feel like I've said that already, like, a lot, but seriously. Are they so lacking in priests that they can't just, like, I don't know, fire him? Like, hey, dude,
it's not even just about firing him. They should report him to the police.
Like, there's so many things where it's, like, literally, what is he doing that's so great that you feel like you have to protect him? Like, I get that he's a priest, he's still also a person. Get rid of him. Get him out of here.
So fucked, dude. It's so fucked up.
I'm understanding now why you said this in the beginning.
Yeah. On December 7th, Auxiliary Bishop John Michael D'Arcy wrote to Cardinal Bernard Francis Law complaining about John's assignment to St. Julia's because of his history of homosexual involvement with young boys. That same month, Dr. Robert Mullins wrote that John had fully recovered, and Dr. John H. Brennan stated that there was no need for restrictions on his work as a priest. You know, why would he need that?
Right.
He's fine. He's good now.
He's only, like, molested, like, 20 young boys, the youngest being, like, 3 or 4 years old, but it's fine. We can trust him. He won't do it again.
Yeah, he seems fine now.
Obviously, he's fine.
In 1986, new allegations of sexual abuse were made against John. From April 3rd to 12th, 1989, he was treated at the St. Luke Institute in Silver Spring, Maryland, where he was diagnosed with homosexual pedophilia. On April 28th, 1989, Auxiliary Bishop Robert Joseph Banks ordered John to leave the ministry. Instead, John was placed on sick leave on May 24th, and between August 10th to November 4th, was treated in the Institute of Living in Hartford, Connecticut. Upon his release, John was described as moderately improved. Institute officials recommended that he return to assignment. Robert was concerned about the conclusions of the Institute's discharge summary, and on December 13th, the Institute sent Robert a letter explaining the discharge summary, stating that the probability John would act out again is quite low. However, we could not guarantee that it would not reoccur. Psychiatrists concluded that John had an atypical pedophilia in remission and a mixed personality disorder with obsessive-compulsive, histrionic, and narcissistic features, but decided that he could be safely reassigned. And he was. On November 28th, 1990, Robert recommended that John return to the parish, but left the decision up to Cardinal Bernard Francis Law and another bishop. On October 23rd, 1991, the church received a complaint about John attempting to convert and grabbing the buttocks of a 10-year-old boy at the Waltham Boys and Girls Club pool. In 1993, our dude John finally retired from active ministry at the age of 58, and he moved into Regina Cleary residence for retired priests. 3 years later, after more allegations surfaced against him, he spent several months in therapy at the South Down Institute in Ontario, Canada.
Oh, wow. Great. Now we have him. Amazing.
So, he had over a 30-year career in 6 parishes, and John was accused of sexual abuse involving more than 130 boys.
Shocking. Shocking that how long did you say his career was? 30 years? He had a 30-year-long career of molestation is what happened. Obviously it would be over 100 victims. Like, disgusting.
And he was prosecuted in Cambridge for charges of molestation that took place in 1991. John was defrocked in 1998 by Pope John Paul II, and he was found guilty on February 21st, 2002, of indecent assault and battery, and was sentenced to 9 to 10 years in prison. After initially agreeing to a $30 million settlement with 86 of his victims, the Boston Archdiocese pulled out of it, finally settling with them for $10 million. Boston's Suffolk County prosecuted John in 2 other sexual abuse cases. One case was dropped without prejudice when the victim decided not to testify, and in the second case, a judge dismissed the conviction of John in 2 rapes after angry contested arguments because the statute of limitations had run out.
For fuck's sakes.
Which I just feel like in child abuse, rape, sexual abuse claims, there should not be a statute of limitations.
I know, right? I understand why it exists, but for some things, especially like where they're obviously like very traumatic events that they probably remember like every single detail of, probably should be made an exception, but just saying.
So, on August 23rd, 2003, While 68-year-old John was being held in a protective custody unit with 23 other inmates for his own safety from general population, because I'm sure, as we've talked about on this podcast, people with sexual abuse crimes and abuse crimes towards children often do get targeted in jail or prison or whatever.
I like to think that's the universe taking its karma when that happens.
So an inmate convicted of murder and who was a white supremacist named Joseph L. Druce came to pay him an unexpected visit.
Sorry. I love how this is leading up. I'm just curious.
So Joseph entered John's cell just before noon when the prisoners left their one-person concrete cells to return their lunch trays. Joseph jammed John's cell door, which was an electronically operated door, in order to prevent guards from opening it. He then tied John's hands behind his back with a sheet and gagged him. He then repeatedly jumped from the bed in the cell onto John's motionless body and head and beat him and defrocked the priests with his fists. The solid cell door has like a chest-high window that the guards can look through as they pass by, and when an officer on duty heard noises coming from John's cell but could not open the door from the control panel at his station, other officers were summoned by walkie-talkie. It took several of them to pry open the door, and when they finally did get the door open, John was taken by ambulance to a hospital and pronounced dead at 1:17 p.m. The inmate who attacked him was immediately isolated.
A white supremacist who's already a murderer was like, you know what? I'm gonna take one for the team and just annihilated this man.
It's not funny, but it's kind of funny. The funny thing about
it's a little funny
is this guy who was literally a white supremacist and already convicted of murder and several other things. He came out like a few years later being like, actually the guards were in on it, and then he released a YouTube video of footage from the prison, or allegedly he released this footage. They're actually not sure how this footage got released because no inmates are supposed to have internet access, and this was like literally security footage from the prison of like the guards trying to get the door open, and he's like, yeah, they were totally in on it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It was very strange,
right?
But this guy who attacked him was immediately isolated and sentenced guilty first-degree murder for John's death on January 25th, 2006, and after rejecting his insanity defense. Massachusetts does not have a death penalty, so Joseph was given a mandatory life sentence in prison without parole, even though he was already serving a life sentence for his previous crimes. His first life sentence was for a murder in 1988 for strangling a man. He was also convicted while in prison for attempting an anthrax scare by sending envelopes filled with white powder and covered in swastikas to about 30 Jewish lawyers nationwide in 2001.
Interesting.
So he's not great. Like, he's not good at all.
No, this man sucks too. No. What? What?
Like, I'm very confused. But like,
flabbergasted. I am just baffled by this whole scenario. Just
so, to kind of wrap things up, at the time of John's death, the Commonwealth's appeal of the judge's dismissal of John's 2 sexual assaults and his 2 rapes, because they had hit their statute of limitations, was still active. The remaining charges of incident assault in that case were still pending prosecution at the time of his death. So it kind of was left unresolved because of this murder. This white supremacist who like fucking curb stomped this guy in jail.
I literally did not envision this happening. I thought it was going to be, I really honestly thought this was going to be one of those things where they're like, oh yeah, he goes to jail, but then he gets out on good behavior, and then he dies alone, surrounded by, like, an orphanage or something. You know, like something stupid where it's like, okay, this shouldn't have happened, like, this is so unfair. I really do feel like that was the universe getting back at him. It has to be. Like, of all the people to take you out, of all the people to take you out, I'm assuming, like, I don't know. That's a lot.
It is a lot. I told you, I warned you, it was gonna be a lot.
Do you know how badly you've got to fuck up to have a white supremacist curb stomp you and not be a, like, and not
he's just like, yeah, whatever, I got a second life sentence, like, what you gonna do?
He's like, another one bites the dust. And, like, he's like, I'm already in here forever, might as well make it longer, I guess.
Oh my god. Oh, we're laughing because it's dramatic.
Like I said, I am just baffled. Do I feel like, though, like, as far as, like, deaths go, that he probably deserved to have a, like, a non-peaceful death? Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
But like I said, the universe is definitely, I say the universe because literally at this point, who knows? But I like to condense everything into kind of like one thing in general. I like to think that the universe took a look at that and was like, you know what? You had a 30-year pedophilic career, you get a 30-minute curb stomping that leads to death. Like,
yeah, apparently once the guards got the door open, they took a look at him, and, like, one of them was quoted as saying, we knew he wasn't getting back up. I was like, oh my god.
Well, at this point, he's like, what, a 60-year-old man? Like, there's no way. Your bone's so brittle. Like, you're not coming back from that.
He was, like, fucking jumping off the bed onto his goddamn head. I have no words.
You're like, I have nothing to say. But no, definitely, that was a very interesting story, though. I totally had forgotten about this whole scandal up until you said something. So I'm actually, like, I was very curious, and now we're here. And do I feel like justice was served? Actually, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because this is literally one of thousands of priests who's done shit like this. So I feel very, like, icky about the situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope, it definitely doesn't get better unless people are actually willing to make change instead of covering things up because they're worried about what their image would look like to the public. Just saying.
Yeah. And, like, it even makes me think about when we went to church as children. I feel like there was at one point, a revolving door of priests.
Of priests? That's because there was. We had, I don't know exactly why, and also I did hear through the wire that, sometimes how they get switched around is for other things too, because as a Roman Catholic priest, you're not allowed to, have relationships, like, you're not allowed to get married or have kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the Roman denomination, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that, though. But I did hear that sometimes switching around will happen, either because somebody else will do something, and they have to get pulled out of their church, and so they rotate all the priests, or it'll be a different thing where it's not necessarily like a child abuse situation, but rather that they have a relationship going that people find out about.
Yeah, I literally don't know, so I'm not trying to accuse anyone of anything.
Oh, yeah, no, obviously. Like, but no, you're right. There was, like, a little period of time when we were going to church where there was, like, I think, like, we had, like, 4 priests coming and cycling at one point, but also I do remember asking somebody about, and they said that for a priest to, like, stay, like, get stationed, like, after, like, a month of services, they can, like, say, like, hey, you know, like, I want to be placed here, or whatever, right? Like, if the availability comes up, so that might have also been a part of it, but
who's to say? It does make you think, though, after hearing stuff like this, you know?
Yes, it also doesn't help that, not to air out anything, but I do actually know somebody who, not from where we're from, but like from like a small town in northern Alberta, they actually were abused, and that priest ended up getting moved away to somewhere in Saskatchewan.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. I know you hear things as you hear things as you get older, and you're like, ah, yes, of course, the world, such a wonderful and lovely place all the time. Love that for us. Another rotation on this lovely dome full of people that we don't like.
Exactly.
But I guess on that note, that brings us to the end of today's episode, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it does. I mean, happy Easter if you celebrate it. This will give you something fun to think about over the holiday.
Amazing. Love that for us.
As you search for your basket, you can be thinking about this.
Oh, wonderful. I'll make sure to say nothing to my family. Like, literally nothing. Zip. Not at all.
Oh, I'm pretty sure your mom listens to this podcast, so I'm sure she'll be thinking about it too.
She's got some catching up to do. That's like way down the line.
Sweet.
Yeah, so she can get mad at me like a year from now. It's fine. But let's see. So our plugins. We have a website. We are at www.wheelofcrime.com if you'd like to check us out there. We also have social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, which is at Wheel of Crime. If you would like to send us an email, just something you want to say or, something interesting you want to share, that is wheelofcrime@gmail.com. We also have a Patreon if you'd like to donate to the show, which is at Wheel of Crime on Patreon. And then if you would like to leave us a review and say you think we are like excelente, you can leave us a 5-star review on wherever you are listening to your streaming podcast station place thingy digital device. Yep, that's it.
That's it. That's all. I hope you guys have a good week. And we'll see you next week. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.